Hey guys, it's Rick from RC. How you going? Welcome to part 8 of the Let's Build a Plane series. We are at the home stretch now. In this episode, we work on the back section of the plane. We're installing the horizontal and vertical stabilizer, and we throw in some servos for good measure. Stay tuned, it's coming up next. This is a quick rundown on how I'm going to attach the vertical stabilizer to the horizontal stabilizer. So basically we're going to end up with something like that. Now with my last build I used a gift card. I got an ordinary gift card and I bent it 90 degrees like so, and what I did was I had it coming up through the fuselage like so. Right, so if you imagine that's the fuselage and that's the top of the fuselage here like so, this piece is the top, and I would have had the gift card inside there like so with a slot in the middle, and it would have come up through the side like that, not through the side, it would have come up through the slot. And if you imagine this to be the top of the fuselage now, I would have something like that. Then after that I would have the horizontal stabilizer sitting on top there. So if you imagine that's the top of the fuselage, the horizontal stabilizer sits on top, fixed into place with the double-sided scotch tape. I'd have the gift card coming up through the middle there like so, and then the vertical stabilizer attached like so. That gave it the extra rigidity I was looking for. Now, so that's what I did in my last build, which was the swordfish. I've got a video on that too if you want to check it out. So with this one now that I'm building, I decided I want to make it more scalable, easier to remove without worrying about the piece going through the fuselage. So I'm working with my horizontal stabilizer, I'm working with my vertical stabilizer, I'm using the exact same gift card which I've bent, putting a bead of glue here, some glue here, some glue here, attaching that to the vertical stabilizer like that, and attaching that to the horizontal stabilizer like that. So that would be my back, wing and tail plane ready to go, and then I would simply attach that whole module to my fuselage, or if that's the body, the back section of the body, I would attach it like so with the double-sided scotch tape. That way if I had a crash or an accident and I had broke or bent or dented the foam or whatever, I could just peel that whole thing off like so and just make a new one, fix the original one, whatever. But it gave me more flexibility to do that. So that's how I decided to do it for this build. And that's the end result right there. So I've already connected the vertical stabilizer to the horizontal stabilizer, and that whole piece is one module ready to attach to the back of the body. So I've used the pieces of gift card that I described in my introduction, and I'll show you exactly where they are. I think you can see the outline of where they exist at the moment. I've covered them with tape. So this is not the exact gift card that I used, but I cut out a piece like you saw earlier at 90 degrees, and I put it on one side like so, and then I put it on the other side as well. That's been glued into place and then covered with tape, and that's the other side. I did the same thing. I got another second piece of gift card. I folded it in 90 degrees and glued it in position. And that's how the vertical stabilizer is being held in place to the horizontal stabilizer. It gives the rigidity and the strength I need. And if anything ever happens to the horizontal stabilizer or the vertical stabilizer, I just have to peel it off and make another one or fix the existing one. So that's one module ready to go. It's got enough strength there to hold its own. So I've put a bead of glue on the base as well as some glue on both sides of the gift card. So it's providing all the strength you need, considering it's just a piece of foam, and that's all it really needs to be. That's my horizontal stabilizer and my vertical stabilizer with the rudder and elevator hanging off both, the control horns in place, and that is one unit, one whole module ready to be installed on the plane. So this is the area now where I am going to cut off a taper on the back part of the fuselage. So this will help reduce weight, and it will also add a bit more character to the body of the aeroplane, so it doesn't look like a tube, just a simple ordinary foam tube. So I've drawn the lines and the angle for the cutout. I've done that to both sides of the fuselage tube, and I'm just preparing now with the ruler to make the cuts with the knife. So I use a bit of tape with the ruler to hold it in place so it doesn't slip easily on the packing tape. So I'm doing the first side, and I'm positioning the ruler on the other side now, and I'm going to apply the same cuts, and there it is. That's the taper at the back of the fuselage. So the servos are going to go inside that opening on the back of gift cards, which I'll show you later. There'll be control rods hanging out of that, and on top of that section will sit the back wing with the vertical stabilizer. Now you don't have to do this part, but it helps. It helps to reduce weight, it helps to maintain and gain access to the servos, and it adds character to the overall shape and design of the plane. Now this is a preview of what the body looks like now that I've cut that taper. As you can see, it adds a bit more character to the overall design and shape, and I think it looks much better than just a straight fuselage foam tube. So here I'm quickly going to show you how I strengthened the fuselage join. So I used two pieces of foam tube which I made earlier in my other builds, and I've joined them together to get the length that I wanted for this plane. Now I've already got gift cards on the inside, but I decided to include some gift cards on the outside. Now I found that this gave the join a much stronger connection. Now I'm going to put one more there, or I'm going to leave it for landing gear. So this plane can also accept some landing gear, which I would secure to a gift card in any case. But for now, I'm leaving the underside blank. So as you can see, I've got the gift cards in place, glued in position, either with hot glue or Gorilla Glue, and it creates a very strong join. Even though it's only foam, you want it to hold its own. You don't want it to just crumple at the earliest possible opportunity. Now this is the back section. I've created and designed my own gift card jig. Now the back wing is going to sit behind that area. I've already measured everything out, so I know exactly how the back wing should sit, how far away from the back. And I created that little jig out of 2 and 3 layers of gift cards and sticky taped it in place with the tape there. And when I grab the tailplane, as you're about to see, it goes in nicely, exactly at the position I want it to be. No guesswork. And that's how I'm going to stick this down, using double-sided Scotch tape, believe it or not. Now I'll show you that in a moment. Just showing you a few more angles of this area. So there will be double-sided Scotch tape on the back section there. And this is that tape that I'm talking about. It works very, very well. It can hold pretty much anything to do with foam, balsa wood, plywood, whatever, in position. And it's only temporary. That's the best part. If you need to peel that off at some later stage, you can, without damaging the rest of the plane. So there's going to be 2 strips of double-sided Scotch tape there, and then I'm going to sit that down like so, and that will be secured in position, ready to go. So now I'm just preparing to cut out the strips, marking the length, making the measurements. There's going to be one piece goes down on one side, the other piece goes down on the other side, and then all I have to do is peel off the other side of that tape, and it will be sticky and ready to accept the back wing. So just do a test fit again to show you where that's going to go. Now once I peel off that red coating, that tape will be ready to accept the back wing. So I've peeled it off, or I'm about to peel it off rather, and then I'm going to gently set down the back wing in position like so, and that's all there is to it. This is why I made that jig out of the gift cards. So I take all the guesswork away from how far away it has to sit, where the middle is, and so on. That's pretty much in position now. I can afford a little bit of movement, but not much, just enough to make sure it's exactly where I want it. It's pretty much down and secured now. No glue, just double-sided Scotch tape. So I'm just making sure it's all good, in position the way I like it, aligned the way I like it, and aligned the way I planned. I'm just going to measure to make sure there's an equal distance on both sides. That's pretty much exactly where I want it. I'm ready to take off the gift card jig. Just checking behind, making sure it's all straight and level and vertical. And now I'm peeling off the jig. I don't need that anymore. It's done the job I planned. That's the end result. You can see that strip under there on that side. You can see the other strip there. That is holding the back wing in place nicely. That's not going anywhere. It's not going to fall off, it's not going to tear off, it's not going to peel off unexpectedly. No glue, just double-sided Scotch tape. That's the back wing and the vertical stabilizer in place. All finished. Straight, level and aligned, just the way I like it. So now I'm getting prepared and ready to position the servo that's going to go into the back section there. It's going to sit on a gift card, again with double-sided Scotch tape. And the control arm for that is going to stick through the top of the body. So I have to cut out a slot for the servo arm to stick through slightly so the control rod can be used to move the rudder left and right. And once again, I'm going to use this Scotch tape to hold down the servos. I'll show you a little bit later on how I do that. That's the servo motor. Just as a dry fit, show you approximately how it's going to sit, where it's going to sit. That's going to go about there. I'm going to measure it out properly, which I'll show you in a moment. That's where the elevator servo could go, or may go, or will go. Again, secured with double-sided Scotch tape. No glue involved with this. Now I've got to prepare to cut that slot at the top. So I've masked it out, so I know where the slot should be, how long it should be, how far away from the side I should start cutting, and so on. Now once that slot is cut, the control rod will come through the slot and move like so for the rudder. I'll show you that a little bit later on also. There's one for the rudder up top, and there's one for the elevator underneath. So, like I said, I've masked out the area where I'm going to make that slot. So I'm just lining up the servo, just getting a general idea where it's going to sit. where the slot's going to go exactly, just making sure all my measurements are right. And then I'm going to start cutting. I'm making my marks, and here we go. So I'm securing my straight edge so it doesn't move. Make the cut. The slot's about 5 to 6 mil wide and about 3 inches long. 3 to 3.5 inches long, just depends. So that's the mark. You can see where it's going to go. And in a moment, I'm going to cut right through that and pull that piece of foam away. So I'm just pushing out the cut to make the slot, and there you have it. That's the slot for the rudder servo. So the control horn will be sticking up through that, and the push rod will be attached to the rudder. So I'll give you a brief preview of how that may look and how that may work. So the servo will sit there. It's going to be secured on top of a gift card first with double-sided Scotch tape, and the control horn will be sticking up through that slot. Now you are adding a little bit of weight to the rear by putting the servos that far back, but it's easy to compensate for that at the front. I'll show you how I did that too in upcoming builds as I continue with the video series on Let's Build a Plane. So that's the control rod, which would be sticking up through the slot, connected to the control horn on the servo, moving backwards and forwards to move the rudder. So now I'm preparing to work out exactly where the gift card will sit for the rudder and elevator servo. Now at first I was going to have one gift card for each servo. Here I'm just going through the motions of cutting it to size. So I've decided I'm going to have one there for the rudder servo, which will sit like so with double-sided Scotch tape in position like so. Now, initially I was going to put another gift card next to the first gift card for the elevator servo, but I decided I didn't want to push the weight out any further in the tail. So initially I was going to do that, like so, and I was going to add another servo even further out on the tip. Now that would add unnecessary weight to the tail, but it can be compensated for. It just depends on your build, the type of build, and how you compensate for it. So this is what I ended up doing in the end. One gift card which will hold both servos. So the rudder servo will sit where I initially showed you, and the elevator servo will sit further in next to it. So here's a dry fit again, just to show you the positioning. That's the rudder and the elevator servo next to it. That's the control rod for the elevator servo. And that's the close-up of what she'll look like when it's in place and secured. Now once again I'm going to use this double-sided Scotch tape to position and secure those servos into place on the gift card. Now the gift card offers a much more rigid mounting base, whereas the foam might give way if you had to apply some force to pull the servo off. So this is just the step where I'm gluing the gift card in place, and here I'm using Gorilla Glue. I'm not using hot glue because I want the opportunity to position the card in place, and I want the ability to be able to slide it and move it to get it into the correct position, and I want it to sit flat. Sometimes the hot glue can create a bit of a rise. Anyway, that's in position now. I've glued it. All I have to do is wait for it to dry. And I've decided to use one of my heavy 6S batteries as a weight. So this is the same as applying pressure between the two joints or surfaces being glued. So instead of standing there for the next 15 minutes holding pressure with my hands, I've put a battery. And that's the end result. It's dry, it's in place, it's secure, it's not going anywhere. So now I'm preparing to position the rudder and elevator servos into place. So I'm getting my Scotch tape. I'm going to measure how much I need, cut a piece off, and stick it on the side of the servo. Making final cuts, making final measurements. And that's what it is. That's what it looks like. I'm going to peel off that red piece in a moment and then secure it to the underside of the fuselage. Now I've already connected the control rod. So I've taken off the other side of the tape, and that's the double-sided Scotch tape ready to stick down. So I'm just making sure it sits in the middle with the control horn poking through in the middle of the slot. Making my final little adjustments, connecting up the servo so I can show you how the control horn operates. And there you have it. That's for the rudder. Working beautifully. Just another view, another angle of the rudder servo and the control horn with the push rod moving through that slot. Plenty of room, working nicely. That's a close-up of the rudder servo in position with the double-sided Scotch tape. You can probably just make out the grey part of the tape, which is holding the servo in position. If I need to pull that off, I can, but it's strong enough to hold and do its job under normal conditions. That's the double-sided Scotch tape, which you can see there now. Nice and secure. And I'm going to get ready now to do exactly the same thing for the elevator servo. So I'm just grabbing another servo, similar to the last one. The control horn's in place. The push rod has already been installed on the control horn. All I have to do is secure that servo to the underside there on the gift card. And my servo connections are basically in place and ready to go. I've decided to position it this way. There's really no right or wrong way, but this is how I decided to do it. Just to make things nice and even and balanced. So as I said earlier, that's the control rod on the control horn on the servo. It's ready for installation. I've centered the servo already. I just have to cut out another piece of Scotch tape, stick it onto the servo, and then position that elevator servo in place like we discussed. And making final adjustments, making sure it's all nice, positioned and aligned correctly, feeding the wires through, and that's the end result. Both servos in place, the rudder and elevator servo secured with double-sided Scotch tape on top of a gift card.